what's the best way to argue for trans athletes' participation in the sports of their choice from a scientific perspective? Because it seems that many people who are speaking out against trans kids, trans youth who just want to play sports, think that there's this innate scientific basis to make their view well-reasoned, notwithstanding, of course, the humanity of the young person caught in the middle. I wonder, from your perspective and through your experience lobbying on similar or perhaps this exact issue, what you would say in response.
Absolutely. This is a question that we often hear our legislators ask or their constituents raise as a concern. And I think it comes from this idea of misunderstanding what it means to be transgender, what it means to transition, and that there is a long-standing process that is part of this. These bills are designed to ban transgender people from playing on the sport matching their gender identity outright. What is in existence in all of our sport areas actually are regulatory bodies that have flexibility and that turn to the science in order to inform how to create a fair playing field. So for example, in Ohio, the Ohio High School Athletic Association has had a process in place for more than a decade. It requires a period of transition. It requires documentation and certain affirmations from medical providers to ensure that different hormone levels are at a space where they have deemed is safe and fair for playing. Now, if you have a law that is outright banning this, not only is that shutting down the conversation and harming our transgender youth outright and denying their existence and ability to play, it's also denying the science behind this. And so, in fact, having regulatory bodies is a much better place for this conversation to be taking place because the science is evolving here. So I think that that is something that may not be known. It may not be understood that there are regulations in place even up at the Olympic levels. For more than a decade, the Olympic has had regulations and policies in place for athletes to follow. Could those policies be improved? Absolutely, they are not perfect. But again, it's an evolving conversation and it is rooted in science. And these laws just seek to outright ignore it and ignore the existence of our transgender athletes and ignore their ability and desire to play sports.
And I'll just add to that too. I mean, that was fantastic, Alana. Some of these laws, if the concern, to the extent that the concern is about transgender girls having some sort of advantage, some of these laws ban all trans kids from playing, right? And so any sort of even supposed scientific justification is belied by the outright ban. And it also harms cisgender kids, right? Like I've known cisgender girls who've, played on the football team or played on the wrestling team. And some of these laws ban that as well. So like, I think the science, isn't there for these bans, but also the bans aren't even tied to the science in a narrow way.